When I first took the job, I didn't think twice about it. I needed a place to live, and Mr. Harold needed someone to keep him from falling down the stairs or setting the kitchen on fire. It wasn't glamorous, but it came with a private room, a small paycheck, and a whole lot of silence, which, after the chaos of the city, felt like a blessing. Mr. Harold was 82, sharp as a tack when he was awake, but his body had slowed down a long time ago. He moved like someone underwater, every step deliberate. He couldn't cook, struggled with stairs, and occasionally forgot what day it was. But he still read the newspaper every morning, drank exactly 1 cup of black coffee, and liked to complain about the damn birds on the porch. My job was mostly just being there. I cooked, reminded him to take his pills, helped him shower twice a week, and drove him to the doctor when needed. It was easy work, peaceful even. That lasted exactly 9 days, because on the 10th day his grandson moved in. His name was Chase, 23, tall, broad shoulders, some half-assed tattoos, and a mouth that didn't know how to shut up. He arrived with a duffel bag, a Bluetooth speaker, and a pizza box under one arm, like he was crashing a frat house. I remember standing at the kitchen sink, rinsing out a mug, when I heard the front door bang open. Mr. Harold was asleep in his recliner. I turned and saw him. Chase, standing there like he owned the place. "You the nurse?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Caretaker." I corrected. He gave a crooked smile. "Same thing." I didn't like him right away. Not because he was hot, and he was in that annoying, confident, cocky way, but because he acted like this wasn't my job, like he wasn't stepping into my space. Mr. Harold, of course, was thrilled, called him my boy, and asked if he was staying the weekend. Chase said he was figuring things out and would crash for a bit. That bit became indefinite, and I became the third wheel in the house I was supposed to be running. At first, it was little things. He'd blast music in the kitchen while I cooked, leave his laundry in the hallway, eat leftovers meant for Mr. Harold. I let it slide, thinking he'd get bored and move on. But Chase didn't just stay. He started making himself comfortable. He'd walk around shirtless, towels slung over his shoulder after a shower, like the whole house was his personal gym locker room. And whenever I tried to bring something up, he'd just smirk. "You don't like me here, do you?" he asked that once, leaning in the doorway while I folded towels. His tone was teasing, but his eyes lingered on mine longer than necessary. "I just don't think this is a vacation spot," I replied. He chuckled, ran a hand through his hair. "Good thing I didn't ask for your opinion." The worst part? Mr. Harold didn't seem to notice. Or maybe he did and just liked having his grandson around. Couldn't blame him. Chase brought energy into the house. Laughter. Noise. But he also brought tension. The kind that clung to the air like humidity. Especially between him and me. He'd catch me looking sometimes. I didn't mean to, but when a guy like Chase struts around in gray sweatpants, it's hard not to notice. And he knew I was noticing. He started pushing it, sitting too close on the couch, walking behind me in the narrow kitchen, pressing a little too close to pass, making stupid jokes about needing help in the shower, when he knew damn well I was the one who helped his grandfather bathe. I told myself I was imagining it. Until one night, around midnight, I got up to get water. The hallway was dark, but a soft glow came from the living room. The TV was still on. I figured Chase had fallen asleep on the couch again. He hadn't. He was sitting there, shirtless, legs spread lazily, scrolling through his phone. "You always walk around shirtless too?" he asked, not looking up. I was only in a t-shirt and boxers. Not intentional, just how I slept. Didn't know anyone was awake. I mumbled, reaching for the kitchen light. But I didn't get to the switch, because Chase stood up and walked toward me. Chase closed the distance between us slowly, like he was curious what I'd do. The air between us shifted. Heavier somehow, more loaded. He stopped a couple feet in front of me, close enough that I could smell the body wash he used, something citrusy and sharp. "You're kind of jumpy, you know that?" he said, his voice quieter now. "You always this tense?" I rolled my eyes, tried to play it off. It's almost midnight. Sorry if I'm not throwing a parade. He smirked. So uptight. His eyes dropped to my shirt. Just a plain old t-shirt, slightly wrinkled, maybe riding up a bit from sleep. I suddenly became way too aware of what I was wearing. I turned toward the sink. I'm just grabbing water. Go to bed, man. But he didn't move. Instead, I felt him step even closer. The hairs on my neck stood up. You ever wonder, he said casually, like he was talking about the weather, what it would be like to relax a little? I froze. What the hell does that mean? He didn't answer right away. I turned to look at him, and that's when I noticed the way his eyes lingered, the way his jaw flexed, the way he wasn't grinning anymore. I think you know what it means, he said finally, and then he walked away. Just like that. No explanation, no punchline. Just left me standing in the kitchen like a glitching robot, glass in hand, heart pounding. Back in my room, I laid awake staring at the ceiling, listening for any sound from the hallway. I told myself he was just messing with me, playing some weird dominance game, that it didn't mean anything. But it did. Because from that night on, he wouldn't stop. He'd find excuses to be alone with me, ask for help moving furniture, then lean way too close. Accidentally bump into me in the bathroom. One morning, I caught him walking around in a towel so low I swear it was defying gravity. He was playing some game, and I didn't know the rules. But he wasn't always cocky. Sometimes, he'd be quiet, thoughtful, like when he found me out on the porch one night, sitting with a blanket and scrolling through job listings on my phone. Still trying to get out of here? He asked, dropping onto the step beside me. I'm not trapped, I said, not looking up. You kinda are, he said, nudging my leg with his. Caretaker, live-in helper, housewife, I laughed bitterly. Yeah, well, someone's got to take care of your grandfather. Chase went quiet for a moment. He really likes you, you know. That surprised me. I glanced at him. He wasn't smirking this time. You could have left, he added, but you stayed. That means something. I didn't know what to say. He wasn't wrong. I had stayed longer than I planned. But it wasn't just about Mr. Harold anymore. It was about Chase. And the way he made everything harder and more complicated. A few nights later, it all came to a head. I was cleaning up after dinner. Mr. Harold had gone to bed early. The house was quiet. I was in the kitchen, bent over the dishwasher, when I felt someone behind me. I straightened fast, startled, and nearly bumped into Chase. Jesus, man. He didn't move, just stood there, blocking my way. His eyes scanned my face, then my mouth. I swallowed hard. He stepped forward, barely an inch between us. Can I ask you something? He said. Sure, I replied, barely audible. Do you actually hate me? Or is this just how you flirt? I blinked. What? You give me all this attitude, but you don't actually stay away from me. Makes a guy wonder. Don't flatter yourself, I muttered. He laughed, low and close. I'm not. I'm just saying, if you want to hate me, fine, but don't lie about the way you look at me. And then he brushed past me, his chest grazing mine, and left the kitchen. I leaned against the counter, gripping the edge until my knuckles turned white. This guy was going to be the death of me. The next few days were weird, not because anything dramatic happened, but because nothing did. Chase went back to being semi-normal. He kept his distance, didn't throw any flirty remarks my way, didn't linger too close, didn't say a word about the kitchen moment. It was almost like nothing had ever happened. And that pissed me off more than I expected. I'd gotten used to the game, the tension, the teasing, the way he'd push a boundary and then vanish like it never happened. But now that he wasn't doing it, I missed it. What the hell was wrong with me? Mr. Harold didn't seem to notice any of it. He was in a good mood that week, actually. Said his knees weren't hurting as much. Wanted to sit out on the porch in the mornings and read. He even let Chase mow the lawn without complaining about the crooked lines. One afternoon while I was prepping dinner, Mr. Harold asked casually, "You and Chase getting along all right?" I hesitated with the knife halfway through a bell pepper. "Yeah," I said. "We're fine." He nodded, not looking up from his crossword. He can be a pain in the ass sometimes, but he means well. I wasn't sure what to say to that. That night, after dinner, I stepped out back to take the trash out and found Chase leaning against the side of the house, smoking. I didn't even know he smoked. He glanced at me but didn't speak, just held the cigarette loosely between his fingers, eyes watching the trees sway under the porch light. "You avoiding me now?" I asked before I could stop myself. His mouth twitched. "Thought that's what you wanted." I stared at him for a second. "Is that what you do? You push people just to see how far they'll let you, and then when they don't react the way you expect, you pull away?" He looked at me fully then, really looked, and for the first time he didn't look smug or flirty. He looked tired. "I don't know what I'm doing," he admitted. The honesty in his voice caught me off guard. "I didn't expect to end up here," he went on. "I thought I'd stay a few days, help the old man, then head back to school. But then I started watching you just be here, like it was nothing." "It's not nothing," I said. "No, I know, that's what I mean." He dropped the cigarette, crushed it under his heel. "You're not even related to him. But you care. You show up every day." I didn't know what to say to that. He stepped closer. Not in the usual cocky way, but like he was trying to feel something out. "I've never been good at this," he said. "People. Feelings. I usually mess it up." I swallowed hard. "What are you trying to say?" He hesitated, then said, "You make it hard to ignore." We stood there for a beat, the tension hanging between us again, but this time, different. It wasn't playful or sharp. It was honest, almost vulnerable. And then he did something that shouldn't have surprised me, but did. He reached out, slow, hesitant, and touched my wrist, just a brush of fingers. But it was enough. "Chase," I said quietly, heart racing. He leaned in a little. "Tell me to stop." I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I stayed there, letting his hand linger, our breaths mingling in the cool air. Then the porch light flicked on behind us, and we both jumped. Mr. Harold stood in the doorway, squinting. "Trash is on the wrong side," he said, then looked between us. "What are you boys doing out here?" "Just talking," Chase said quickly. Mr. Harold stared at us for a long second. Then, without another word, he turned and shuffled back inside. We stood in silence. Then Chase looked at me with the smallest smile. "Guess I'm not the only one who's curious." I shook my head, but I couldn't stop the way my chest felt lighter. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. The next morning, things were tense, but not in the same way they had been before. It wasn't flirtation anymore. It was something quieter, deeper, and harder to ignore. Chase was unusually helpful that day. He made coffee for Mr. Harold, even though he usually complained that he didn't know how to work the ancient machine. He offered to help clean up after breakfast. He even refilled the pill organizer without me asking, and didn't mess it up. It wasn't the things he did, it was the way he looked at me while doing them. Soft glances. Lingering, like he wanted to say something but wasn't sure how. Later that afternoon, Mr. Harold fell asleep in his chair, and I was in the kitchen doing dishes when Chase walked in behind me and leaned against the counter, watching. "What?" I asked without turning. "Nothing," he said. "Just, I didn't think you'd still be here." "You mean today?" "I mean it all," he said. "When I showed up, I thought you'd bounce. Most guys would. I was kind of a dick to you." I looked over at him. "You still kind of are." That made him laugh. A real one this time, not that smug grin he usually wore. "You're not wrong," he said. Then after a beat, "But I'm trying." He was quiet for a moment, eyes fixed on his fingers tapping the counter. Then he said, "You remember that night? In the kitchen?" "Which one?" I asked, though I already knew. "The one where I got too close." I dried my hands slowly. "Yeah, I remember." He didn't say anything right away. I could feel his eyes on me, waiting. "I wasn't just messing with you," he said finally. "I wasn't trying to be a jerk. I was testing something. Testing me." I turned to face him. He looked different somehow. Same messy hair, same lazy posture. But there was something in his eyes. Something raw. I've never told anyone this, he said. I think maybe I've known for a while, but I've never said it out loud. My chest tightened. I didn't breathe. I like guys, he said. I mean, not all guys, not in some label-y way. I don't even know what it means yet. But when I look at you... He broke off, then started again. You make me feel something. And it scares the shit out of me. For a moment, all I could hear was the hum of the old fridge. Then I crossed the room, slowly, and stood in front of him. You don't have to figure it all out right now, I said. He nodded, eyes never leaving mine. I just didn't want you thinking it was a joke, or a phase, or a game. I reached out and touched his arm. He leaned into the contact like he'd been waiting for it. It never felt like a game, I said. He let out a breath, like he'd been holding it for days. Then, just as quietly, he stepped forward. Not fast, not bold, just close, like he was asking for permission. When his hand found my waist, I didn't pull away, and when our foreheads touched, I didn't move. We stood like that for a moment, just breathing. Then he whispered, "If I kissed you right now, would you stop me?" I shook my head. I'd probably kiss you back. We didn't kiss. Not then. Mr. Harold shuffled into the kitchen right as the moment hung between us, his slippers dragging softly across the linoleum. Chase stepped back like he'd been caught doing something criminal, even though all we'd done was breathe too close. "Smells like you burned the toast again," Mr. Harold muttered, squinting at the toaster that hadn't even been turned on. "Yep," I said quickly, clearing my throat. "Just ruining breakfast as usual." Chase moved to grab the coffee pot, all casual again, but I saw it, the way his fingers trembled just slightly when he poured the mug. Something about that made my chest ache. The rest of the day was normal. Mostly. I drove Mr. Harold to the pharmacy. Chase mowed the back lawn again. We had leftover chili for dinner. Chase didn't push anything. Didn't bring up the kitchen moment or the confession. But something unspoken simmered underneath everything. Later that night, after I helped Mr. Harold to bed and shut off the porch light, I headed to my room. I wasn't expecting anything. I just wanted to lie down, zone out, maybe scroll on my phone until I passed out. But then there was a knock at the door. Soft. Hesitant, I opened it, and Chase was standing there in a hoodie and basketball shorts, barefoot, hair slightly damp from a shower. "Can I come in?" he asked. I nodded and stepped aside. He didn't say anything at first, just looked around the room, taking it in like he hadn't been in here before, which he hadn't. Not once in the months I'd been living there. My room was small, neat, basic. A twin bed, a lamp, a bookshelf half filled with paperbacks and pill organizers. He walked over and ran a finger along one of the spines. "You read?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "When I'm not cleaning up after your mess." He smiled, but it was subdued. "I couldn't sleep," he said, turning to face me again. "I keep replaying what I said in the kitchen, wondering if I screwed it all up." "You didn't." He looked at me for a long moment, like he wasn't sure whether to believe me. Then, quietly, "Can I sit?" "Of course." He sat on the edge of the bed, not quite looking at me. His knee bounced. He was nervous, which was strange to see on someone usually so cocky. "I've never done this," he said. "Done what?" "Any of it," he said. Admitted it. Said it out loud. Been this close to something real. I sat down beside him, leaving a few inches between us. "It doesn't have to be anything," I said. "We don't have to label it or define it. Not tonight." He nodded slowly. I feel like I've been pretending for so long. Not even just about this, just everything. School, girls, parties. Like I was doing it because it's what I thought I was supposed to want. But none of it ever felt like this. His voice cracked slightly at the end. I reached over without thinking and rested my hand on his knee. He looked down at it like it was the first time anyone had touched him without expecting something. Then he turned to me, eyes wide, uncertain. "I think I want to kiss you," he said. I leaned in and whispered, "Then stop thinking." And he did. He kissed me, soft at first, like he wasn't sure if it was okay, if I'd pull away. But I didn't. I kissed him back, and the moment deepened, slow and warm and hesitant, like we were both testing the edges of something new. When we finally pulled apart, we sat there in silence, breathing, shoulders pressed together. "I don't know what happens next," he said. "Neither do I replied. "But maybe we figure it out. Together." Chase didn't leave that night. He didn't ask to stay either. But when I got up to turn off the lamp, he slid under the covers like it was the most natural thing in the world. No awkwardness, no performance. Just quiet acceptance. We didn't do anything. No pressure, no rush. Just shared space. Breath. Heat. He fell asleep before I did, one arm tucked under his head, face turned toward me. I laid there for a long time, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of how we got here, and why it didn't feel strange at all. The next morning, he woke up first. When I stirred, he was already up, hair messy, standing by the window with a blanket wrapped around his waist, like he'd forgotten where he was. "Sorry," he said. "Didn't mean to crash like that." "You didn't crash," I said, sitting up. "You stayed." That made him smile. He dressed and left before Mr. Harold got up. We didn't talk about it, didn't need to, but something had changed between us. It wasn't just flirting now. It wasn't a game. It was something we both felt, but didn't have words for yet. Over the next week, Chase became someone else entirely. Still sarcastic, still quick with a joke, but softer, warmer, more present. He started helping me with Mr. Harold's routines. Made an actual grocery list without just adding energy drinks and frozen pizza. Took the trash out without being asked. Little things. But I noticed all of them. Mr. Harold noticed too. One afternoon, while Chase was out running errands, the old man looked at me over the rim of his mug and said, "He's different around you." I blinked. "What do you mean?" He laughs more, stands straighter. Doesn't look like he's running from something every second. I didn't say anything. "I'm not blind," Mr. Harold added. "Just old." My heart thudded in my chest. He looked out the window, thoughtful. I knew he was struggling. I just didn't know how to reach him. "Guess maybe you did." "I didn't do anything," I said. He smiled faintly. Sometimes just being there is enough. That night, after dinner, Chase and I ended up in the living room watching some dumb reality show Mr. Harold had fallen asleep to. Chase stretched out on the couch, head resting on the armrest, and patted the space beside him. "Come here." I hesitated, then sank down next to him. He shifted so our legs tangled, his arm draped lazily across my stomach. "Feels like the quiet before the storm," he said. "How so?" "I'm supposed to go back soon. School. My life." That hit harder than I expected. I'd been pretending this bubble was permanent. He turned his head toward me, resting his chin against my chest. "But I don't know if I want to." I brushed a hand through his hair, gently. "You don't have to decide everything tonight." He looked up at me. "But I want to. I want to figure out how to stay." "Because of me?" He didn't answer right away. Then, "Yeah, because of you." The next morning, Chase didn't rush off. Instead, he lingered in the kitchen, leaning against the counter while I poured coffee. He didn't make a joke, didn't tease. He just watched me, quiet, like he was measuring the air between us. "You ever think about what comes after all this?" he asked softly. I shrugged. "After what?" "After this." He gestured vaguely between us. "The house, the quiet nights, the closeness. We can't stay in this bubble forever." I turned to face him, catching the worry in his eyes. "I don't know about forever. I just want now." He nodded slowly, almost as if that was the only answer he needed. The day passed in a blur. We cooked together, laughed over Mr. Harold's bad jokes, and went through the backyard, trimming the hedge that had been left unattended for months. Every glance, every brush of hands, every small touch carried weight now. But it didn't feel awkward. It felt right. Later that evening, after Mr. Harold had gone to bed, we ended up back in my room. This time, there was no hesitation. Chase closed the door softly behind him, and when he turned, he didn't hold back. He kissed me. Not tentative, not testing. Firm, slow, certain, like he'd been holding it in for months and the world could finally wait. My arms found their way around his shoulders, pulling him closer, feeling every bit of tension, every ounce of fear dissolve into warmth. We broke apart only when we needed to breathe, foreheads touching, hearts racing. "I'm serious about figuring this out," he whispered. "So am I said, smiling against his lips. And that was the beginning. Not the end, not a label, not a plan, just a start. The kind where mornings smelled like coffee, afternoons were filled with teasing glances, and nights ended in a bed too small for both of us, but perfect anyway. Mr. Harold didn't comment on our closeness. He didn't need to. He just smiled when he saw us laughing together over some stupid show, or when Chase brought him a plate of food without being asked. I think he understood. Or maybe he just knew some things were better left unspoken. Life didn't change overnight. Chase still had school. I still had my caretaker duties. But we navigated it together. A precarious balance of respect, curiosity, and desire. And while he had arrived as the problem in the house, he became the reason I realized that some problems were worth keeping. Because sometimes, the thing you least expect turns out to be exactly what you needed.